Good evening. Well, maybe not. Does the volume work?
I heard it when you were tapping.
Test, test. Okay, I just got to get really close. Even more so than normal. With the hour of 6 having arrived and for once having accurate clocks hanging in the chambers, let's call the Planning Commission meeting for Monday, December 2nd to order. And call the roll, please.
Commissioner Urbani? Here. Commissioner Barnes?
Here?
Commissioner Chorin?
Here.
Commissioner Schaefer? Commissioner Stoker?
Here.
Alderman Stralchek?
Here.
Mayor Nurbin?
Here.
And Commissioner Hawley is absent.
First up, we have approval of the minutes from October 21st.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any comments or corrections to the minutes? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. First up, we have 3 consent agenda items. One for Mequon 1 LLC for the ICAP development. Sign request, Mark Hilgendorf for Trinity Lutheran Church and Point Real Estate, along for final plat for Swan Ridge Farms. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Motion and a second. No one wants to remove any items? Don't see anyone. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda or consent items are approved. That brings us to public hearings. We have 3 public hearings. The first for Victory Homes of Wisconsin for Brian and Carolyn Timonis. The applicant is seeking a conditional use grant approval to allow for a guest house at the property located at 3131 West Donjas Bay Road. Is there a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of going into public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are now in public hearing. Is there anyone here from the public who's not affiliated with the project in any way who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, is there a motion to close public hearing? Motion and a second to close public hearing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are back in regular session. So staff will give us a very brief overview.
Sure.
Thank you, Jack.
The guest house in the R2 zoning district, which is a conditional use grant. If you may recall, a couple year or so ago, we modified our guest house definitions to clear up ambiguity in the code, which we thought worked, but still have one kind of ambiguity with this plan. They're showing a warming drawer, which we consider to be similar to an oven, stove, or cooktop. So our only request would be that that is removed. Other than that, we do recommend approval according to the conditions of the report.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners? Looks like a very nice guest house. Does the applicant have anything to add or any questions for the commission? Oh.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
It's a little better, yeah, just cozy up
Okay.
to it, yeah.
Sit uncomfortably close. So,
Yep, I wasn't
so
kidding.
I would say that we appreciate the opportunity to be here and appreciate what you guys are trying to accomplish in terms of controlling for not having cooking appliances in this type of a property. And we specifically, when we designed it, we actually designed it without the stove top or an oven just for that purpose. I think just talking, we'd certainly be willing to remove the warming drawer if necessary. We just wanted to explain what it was, because it actually doesn't have the ability to really cook. It only has a heating range of 95 degrees to 185 degrees. And as this is a pool house, this is really intended for kind of a temporary situation where we might have people out there ordering in pizzas or things like that, where we could keep them warm. So we have the specifications of the warming drawer that we could certainly share with the committee if you'd like. But we'd just like to discuss that because it really isn't a cooking utensil.
Commissioner Chorin?
Well, I guess I'd like to ask staff, after hearing that, does that change your opinion? Because they really aren't preparing.
Well, I'm not an expert in the kitchen for sure, but I will say that I did some research on it, and some of the warming drawers actually you can slow cook it, so they are allowed. They will slow cook, kind of like a crock pot would, so they do have the potential to cook some meals. And this is where again, this is a slippery slope where we go down. You know, we do allow microwaves in there because we felt even with a plug-in microwave, there's really no way to control that anyway, so we did allow microwaves, but this, to me, just felt like it kind of crossed the line into the cooking realm. So if the commission doesn't feel agree to that, we can no longer have to worry about that going forward. It's just more of an interpretation issue from the commission than anything, so.
Commissioner Schaefer.
I don't even know if I have a thought, except it is a slippery slope. I think the way it was explained seems very reasonable. I kind of want to live in this guest house, so I would want to have the warming drawer there. I wouldn't be opposed to it based on the description that was provided. I say that and I hesitate because I typically would err on the side of caution, because once we agree to one thing, then future things that come up, then it just kind of snowballs sometimes. But I guess I'd be interested in hearing what other commissioners have to say.
Commissioner Urbani.
I had to go look up the warming drawer and exactly what it did and how hot it went, and I did read the same thing, that you can slow cook in it because that's the temperature it gets to, basically is like a slow cooker. So then I was thinking about, would I rather in the guest house there be a series of crock pots or toaster ovens or what have you on the countertop versus a built-in that might have better safety mechanisms with the outlet because it's intended and designed in, versus random appliances. You can get an oven and that sits on your counter now. So I think I'd rather have the built-in warming drawer, granted, like specifying that it only goes to 180 degrees, rather than some of those other appliances that you can buy and put on the countertop.
Commissioner Strelchak.
How warm does the warming drawer go?
Here's the specifications, Commissioner.
If you just tell me how warm,
It's it goes to 185 at its top temperature.
Okay, I'm slow cooking ribs tomorrow night, and I'm doing them at 250. And when I pre-cook and I reverse sear steaks, I'm cooking them at 225 to 250. This is clearly a warming drawer, and I'm comfortable with it. Maybe we'll just set a standard that a warming drawer cannot exceed the temperature of 200 degrees. And I'll mirror what the other members up here have said. I have a small place up in Door County, and I had a terrible oven up there, and I bought one of the Ninja air fryers and was shocked at how well I could cook different things and make pizzas and do all those things. This, based on the layout, is clear that it's it's as much maybe an in-law suite or a guest house at best, and a place where you're going to entertain when you have people over and you're hanging out by the pool. I think the intent is clear based on not only the design, but the layout as well, within the property. So I'm comfortable with the warming drawer based on the fact that it doesn't exceed 185 degrees. I will caution you, my concern is if that does fail at some future time and then you can get another one and reinstall it that's like 300 degrees and you can cook in it, that isn't sticking with the spirit of the intent of allowing a warming drawer here. So, keep that in mind and pass that along. 20 years down the road when the warming drawer fails, I'm sure that'll be a critical point of discussion. So, I'm comfortable with it. I think it's a great facility. It's gorgeous. I looked at it and I was, there have been some architecturally that I've been, shying away from. This was, it's a beautiful space, and I hope that you enjoy it. I plan on supporting it.
Thank you.
Sounds like some support is coalescing around the warming drawer. I guess assuming it passes, which I'm pretty sure it will, given just counting heads here, maybe we just follow up with a text amendment to clarify,
I'm not sure if we actually need a full text amendment. If the commission's gone on record that this is a condition that they're acceptable with, we would just apply that going
we wouldn't
forward.
put that right in the code.
We would. I mean, we can in the future if we're doing a modification, but I wouldn't specifically do it just for that item.
Just stick it in the file for
Yeah, for
future incorporation. Okay.
So
Yeah,
with
just so
that,
we
I'll-
don't end up having the same thing come before us for the same thing in a year and,
No, no.
okay.
With that, I'll move approval, allowing the warming drawer.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Torin?
Are we gonna put a limit on the temperature?
Per the condition that the warming drawer does not exceed, you want to say 185 or 200 degrees?
Well, that's happens to be one model that's available on the market. I think
Does not exceed 200 degrees.
that's fair. It's a little shy of the boiling point of water, so.
Second.
Okay. Perfect. I think staff got everything they needed out of that
Good, thank you.
for the future. So we have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And that item's approved with the warming drawer.
Thank you.
Congratulations, a beautiful guest house.
Enjoy.
Our next public hearing is for Neil Fleischschacher of Eastwood Nest LLC. The applicant is seeking conditional use grant approval to allow for warehousing at the property located at 6300 to 6320 Eastwood Court. Is there a motion to go into public hearing? Motion and a second. All in favor of going into public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
We are now in public hearing. Is there anyone from the public here tonight who wishes to speak about this item? Hearing and seeing none, is there a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Fantastic. Thank you. As the former victim of a home fire who had all their stuff reclaimed, I definitely know the need for such facilities. You'd be amazed what they can save. Any input from the commission on this item?
I have one quick question.
Commissioner Barnes?
Just when I took a look at the site and drove around it, and I have no objections, but just a question mark that in driving around it looked like there was stuff outside, and then when reading the condition, I got a little confused on that.
We don't have anything in the building as of yet, so the stuff outside is the neighboring businesses. The only thing we'll have is a cube truck. And
Okay.
that'll be parked in our dock.
I was simply wondering of
Yep.
what appeared to be an anomaly.
Okay, any other comments or questions or emotion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is also approved. Welcome to Mequon.
Thank you all.
And it sounds like we got a report to some stuff in the parking lot that maybe
Yeah, we'll take a look.
staff will follow up on. That's unrelated to this development. Yep. Next up, we have Zaki Washington Land Trust. The applicant is seeking the conditional use grant approval for a nature preserve and a minor request approval to allow for a parking lot for the property located at 4513 West Bonnewell Road, otherwise known as Spirit Lake. Is there a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now in public hearing. It looks like we have several people who have registered to speak, so I'll take them in the order they provided their comment cards. The first is Beverly Welke. Pardon?
She would be for the other one.
Oh, it says OWLT on top.
The other one, I think, is, the other three, I think, are.
Okay, never mind. Okay. Clerical error there. First up is Bob and Joan Biggie. Okay, thank you. Did not check if they oppose or support, but they wish to speak. 4800 West Bonnewell Road. Please come to the podium and keep the comments to around 5 minutes each, but I'm not going to get my stopwatch out.
We are not opposed to the parking. Our problem is the hunting. We are across the street from the property, and we had to call the police department because we had BBs bouncing off our roof. And when there's that kind of activity going around, to me, it's not safe hunting. And
At the east end, they have marked off where that subdivision is on the east end. They put signs up, no hunting within 100 yards. But when our neighbor is in the middle of it all, they refuse to put any signs up. We've seen the hunters hunting right on the edge of his piece of woods. And it's gotten way out of hand.
And Sunday night when there was a guy over there deer hunting, and when a guy is shooting 5 times in a row at a running deer, he doesn't have time to pay attention to where that slug is going. And it's only a matter of time before either somebody gets shot or their house gets hit, or mine. I have no idea if,
You know, bow hunting is one thing, but the gun hunting has to go away.
and they should be limited to the amount of people that are in there at a time. When there's 12 vehicles there for bull hunting, there isn't gonna be a deer left in that woods. It's not that big. I've lived across the street, and my brother and I farmed that for over 25 years. I know the property. I have no idea if the preserve is gonna eliminate hunting or let it continue. That's my question.
Well, it's a bit outside the scope of this conversation, but I think this is going to kick off another set of reviews and inquiries on on behalf of the city, unrelated to the parking lot, but
Supposedly the land trust says that there have been no complaints. Yet we know that we have,
There,
we and the other neighbors have called the police for at least 3 times, if not more.
for BBs hitting houses. And actually, their son got hit in the ear by one BB.
sure. You live right across the street. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm your alderman, and I can address this. I've heard what you've said very clearly, and I've taken what you've said to heart. Just wanted to let you know I was the person that got the signs put up on the left side, and the anticipation at that time
Correct.
was that people wouldn't probably be hunting in the front there, and you know, I apologize that we didn't have the foresight to put those signs in, to, you know, be at least 100 yards away from your house, you know, per, you know, US regulations on that. So I'll add that as a condition that we add that. That field was being farmed at that time, and those signs that went in across the east line for the subdivision, I'll ask that they be added as well, so that you're at least, you know, protected by the buffer zone. And then we'll talk about the hunting and some of those other items, you know, with gun hunting and things similar. I know that there's some state regulations that we can't curb here, and there's also some conditions for the property as OWLT that we can't curb here, but we can try to make it as safe and as reasonable as possible for you. I've heard what you've said.
So who has the right to do away with the hunting?
DNR, and I don't know how much backing we're gonna get from DNR.
I'm not sure we're prepared to talk about that tonight.
My understanding is that
Uh,
the funds that use to purchase the property require the ability to hunt there based on local regulations. So it'd have to be a local regulation that the police would have that would prohibit hunting there. And when I spoke with the detective at the police department, he basically said that it meets their requirements to allow for hunting there for certain types of hunting. They allow small game and deer. But it's a regulation, whether it's considered a preserve or just their land, they have the right to hunt there based on our local regulations.
Okay.
Well, we'll get some more input from the public here tonight, but I think we should circle back at a staff level and talk about that with the police department, because if there's people's houses getting buckshot and birdshot rained down upon them, it's going a bit too far. And I'm a hunter, but that's it's a little too close for comfort.
Right. Thank you.
We have 2 more people that are registered to speak, but we'll take more if more people want to join. The next is Kevin White, opposes and wishes to speak, 4900 West Bonnewell Road.
Yeah, so I'm not opposed to what Walt is doing with the property. I think they're doing a great job trying to preserve a fairly large piece of land, and I certainly want it to be used by the public. My concerns, very similar to Beege's, are with the hunting, but I'll address the parking lot because I think that's what's up for discussion tonight. I'm not in favor of a gravel parking lot right off of Bonnywell in the front of some of our houses. I think we need to hear more about how they plan to manage that and regulate parking. Right now, it's a free-for-all with the hunting specifically, and off hours and everything else. So if that's just going to move to a gravel parking lot that's 50 or 75 feet off of Bonnywell and just literally right in front of some of our houses, I have a real concern with that. It would be better than what's going on now with trucks parking in the ditches, some of them getting stuck, some of them staying there, a couple hours past deer hunting, because I'm not sure what they're doing other than cleaning up and maybe having a little celebration or something like that. But I think moving the problem to a consolidated area is maybe better, but I'm not sure it's the right answer. So I'd like to hear more about how they plan to manage it, how they plan to, an operational plan. Is it gated? Is it not gated? Is it open and closed? There's going to be garbage that is thrown away. I think every remote parking lot that we have in the city, when I go to them, there's always garbage or mattresses or things discarded. So I'd like to hear how it's going to be managed because we are in the middle of the country in the rural part, and I have a second access point in my property, and I've found hunters parked there. I've found teenage kids parked there doing whatever teenage kids do. So I just think another unmanned parking lot in the middle of nowhere could be a problem. So I'm opposed to it for right now, but if it's going to actually solve some of the hunting problems, which I'm sure you guys will take up, I could get behind it, but I'd want to know how it's going to be managed.
Thank you. Next, we have Scott Seifert, wishes to speak, 4823 West Bonnywell.
Hi, I'm the property inside of Spirit Lake, the farmhouse that used to own all of the property. We are probably for the parking lot for the same reasons that Mr. White just discussed. The cars on the road are all the time. They're half in the ditch, half in the road, constantly tearing up the ditches because they park anywhere they want. My property, they will park on either edge of my property to the east and the west to gain access for hunting. They will obviously park around the entry road, but that's generally more of the walkers. The hunters will park on the far west end of the lot where the land trust has an access road that does allow people to get back towards the pond, so the bird hunters will generally park down there. I'm not entirely convinced, like Kevin, that any of those people are going to change their ways and park in the lot because they park there so they can walk in with shortest access to where they want to hunt. So like Kevin, I'm torn. I feel it is great for the city. It's great for access to Spirit Lake, the people who are walking and enjoying Spirit Lake for the other things outside of hunting. But circling back on hunting, and I do appreciate that that's not the topic tonight, but I have had several incidents where we've had to call the police. Most recently, a month ago, we were in the garage working and our house was continually getting peppered with shot. It happens often. I don't call the police every single time because it doesn't happen continuously. Admittedly, bird hunting is by far the worst. They go out in groups and lay on their backs and shoot. I mean, over the course of a couple hours, maybe as many as 50 or 100 shots. A flock of birds will fly over and they'll shoot from 5 maybe hunters, 5 or 7 shots apiece, whatever their semi-autos can hold. They shoot at birds that are a mile high that could never be hit by what they're shooting at. And they don't care where their ammunition is going, nor do they understand the arc of where it's going. Most recently, I walked out. I have a bullhorn because of this, so I don't know how many of you have a bullhorn. I have a bullhorn. I had to walk out and found these young boys that were laying out on their back in the middle of the cornfield. there was some language barrier where I was very clear that my next actions would be I would have to call the police. I got halfway back to my house and they started shooting again because more birds were flying over, immediately hit my house again, started yelling at them through my bullhorn. As I got back, my wife's friend had shown up to pick up some donation stuff. Her car got hit, and all of a sudden the young man comes up to the edge of my property asking if he could enter because he shot the neck and the leg off of a bird, and he needed to run in and wring its neck in front of everybody. So I realize and do support hunting, but at what point does it become impactful to the surroundings? Another incident, we came out of the garage to see what the 50 shots were, and my son got hit in the ear with a hot pellet. Now, did he get hurt? Yeah, it stung, it hurt. What if it hit him in the eye? There are real repercussions. He was shot. I get it, it was a small BB, but someone didn't care for what they were doing. So I appreciate this is not about hunting. I actually support the hunting. I wish that it would be more bow hunting friendly. I wish we could just exterminate the bird hunting. I realize you can't pick and choose. So I just, as a total, I hope maybe you can circle back on the idea that maybe it's not safe. Maybe it's not safe. You have that property to the east, which you did put those 100-yard barriers on, but they literally will lay on their back right alongside the entrance road for Spirit Lake gravel. That's where they lay. So you're telling me a family that's gonna go walk their dog is gonna walk right past 10 guys laying on their back. It happens. It happens a lot. And they shoot lots of shots. If I went out there, set up all my gear, and spent the time to do it, I'd want to shoot my gun too. And they do. They shoot it at a mile-high bird. So I just wish you guys would take it a little bit into account. So again, the property, parking lot, I'm for, but maybe we need to look into hunting. So thank you.
Thank you. Next we have, is it Keenan Kwiatkowski? Kevin? Okay. Opposes, wishes to speak, 13425 North Laurel Lane.
So my property is adjacent to Spirit Lake. I apologize to my neighbors. I am a hunter. I do not bird hunt, but I deer hunt. And we too deal with the pellets, falling on our homes. My concern, not necessarily the parking lot, because it is a safety issue with all the cars on the street. It does block traffic traveling east and west on Bonnewell. My concern is with the trails. I don't know if this is part of that conversation or the trails that they propose to connect Rotary Park to Spirit Lake.
Actually, unrelated proposal.
Okay, all right. That was more my concern because it looks like they're already under construction. But the parking lot, I have the same questions with controlling use and then ensuring that the people that are using Spirit Lake do use the parking lot wherever it ends up being located and that it is maintained.
Excellent. Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak about this item? We don't have to stop with the people who pre-registered. Oh, I got one more in back. Sir, please come up to the mic and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is David Sedlacek. I live at W64 and 361 Madison Avenue in Cedarburg. I work for the Land Trust, and I'm obviously for it. I hear everyone's concerns about hunting, and I just want to address that we wish we could change some things about the hunting there too. Like Jack had mentioned, the way the land was acquired, not through us, before us, and then after we purchased it, have certain stipulations that we can't change based on even our ownership. And like Jack said, the best way to change it is to go after the local government. Maybe a no discharge law or something like that would be the route to go. But we can't really change it. Technically, they're not supposed to be firing any rifles. If you hear any rifles, please call the police or DNR. They manage the hunting. Parking lot will be there at least once a week. We have many other parking lots that we go to all the time, at least weekly. Do litter picks and stuff like that. It'll be gated at the end of the access lane to prevent people from driving into the preserve. It was purposely chosen to be closer to Bonnewa Road so that we can do in partnership with the city of Mequon Police Department to help us keep eyes on it close to the road. We didn't want to have it into the preserve. That's usually where a lot of trouble comes. So I hope I could help some of you with some of the questions. I know it's not the answers everyone wants to hear, but I wanted to just represent and just clear a little bit of the air that I could. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. If there's no one else from the public who is wishing to speak, we can close public hearing. Going once, twice. Is there a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're back. To follow up with what the gentleman from the land trust said, we did have some issues with a parking lot over on the east side with a different piece of land trust land, and they were responsive to getting those issues resolved over time, and things have improved. So they're not going to build it, neglect it, and not be responsive to needs of the local residents. And I've lived that one firsthand over on the east side of Mequon for Dodgers Bay Gorge. So they do try to do a good job. Is there any other feedback from the commission? Commissioner Barnes.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. I appreciate the input from residents and can understand the dilemma that you're dealing with, and it's a little bit of a multi-dimensional thing. So I'm going to just focus on the parking area itself. Again, this is a unpaved parking area. When I happened to be out there Sunday morning or whenever it was, I saw a couple of vehicles parked in the ditch. So I wondered if it was hunters out there. But anyway, I guess a couple of points I'd like to suggest is seeing the staking for the parking area and where it's at. I think it's going to be a vast improvement over what's there, and it'll draw users of the area to the intended location for vehicles. I think it'll add kind of a controlled formality appearance to that little spot. I did notice there's a lot of, as has been mentioned, a lot of worn dirt. The ditch there is all badly worn and from vehicles parking there over time. So I'm wondering if we can, whether it's formally or not, but that the MMSD can include the some cleanup of the ditch, seeding it.
I think the ditch is ours here at the city.
Okay, well, yeah, and I be at the city and where it is, but it does need to be cleaned up. And recognizing just the comment on the garbage in the area, I don't know if a garbage can in the parking area, simple question or item on that. So anyway, I'm suggesting that we move ahead and approve the parking area as is, recognizing that some of the other concerns brought up here are independent of that.
Thank you. Commissioner Urbani.
I was wondering, are there hours for this parking lot? Is it going to be closed at any point with a?
So the parking lot itself would not be closed, but the nature preserve itself would be dawn to dusk. So they technically would not be allowed to be on there beyond that time frame. But from my understanding, is the gate, they'll have a gate to the south of the parking lot that'll prevent you from going down the main trail. But the parking lot itself will not be gated at nighttime.
Okay. And is there any way we can have signage in the parking lot that reminds people about the regulations in play for that area, or that there are private residences surrounding, or warning it? Kind of spelling it out for both types of users, because there's users that are going to this area to have a nature walk, and there's users that are going to hunt, and maybe making sure they're both aware of each other. Some kind of signage in the parking lot.
You can have that as a condition.
It's an excellent idea, so hold on to that. Hello over there. I got to turn to the right more. Commissioner Schaefer.
The designation of nature preserve, what does that change other than, if I'm reading, is that just so that we allow it to have the parking lot? Is there anything else that changes?
Yeah, I mean, when they originally approached me about putting a parking lot there, and I went back and said, you're really kind of acting as a preserve. We should go through the process and formally get a conditional use grant. Now, what the conditional use grant does give us the ability to enact certain requirements, like the
Yes.
signage, the garbage can, things like that. But if there's other issues that we want to regulate, I think we have the ability to do so. Now, where it gets a little interesting is if we have the ability to, like, say, restrict hunting further than our license or not, that, I'm not sure that the city attorney would have to weigh in on that, because you're overlapping different jurisdictions here. You have the police department that has the rules on hunting in the city, and now we're creating a separate and distinct rule for this one. Can you do that? Maybe. I'm not 100% sure on that. I didn't know the extent of the issue. I spoke to the police department about this. They made it sound like there wasn't a lot of issues there in terms
That's
of hunting.
unfortunate.
So, and maybe there's more than one person that was involved in that, but the one person I spoke to said they were fine with what was going on there. They did state that they require a permit to hunt. So if you hunt at Spirit Lake, you need to get a permit from the police department. You just can't go there without a permit, and no rifles are allowed. Now, again, I don't know how much of that's being enforced or not.
Yeah.
You know, again, it's manpower issue again, so.
It gets enforced in the breach, and that puts the burden on the neighbors to call
Correct.
continuously. I guess I think I know that that is not what we're taking up, and yet I would say it's inextricably linked to this parcel. I don't know that we can talk about the parking lot without talking about how it's being used. I've stopped walking my dog there. Not thankfully we haven't been witness to what I'm hearing, but based on the anecdotal reports of what happens there. So I feel like we have to talk about them. It's linked to me.
Yes,
I
they
don't
are
know that we
connected.
can talk about, yeah, let's approve it. And also there's all this going on that we're just going to, I don't know, how do we best do this and still include what we need to do from a planning perspective?
I think that comes down to what your requirements will be. If you're looking to like completely prohibit hunting, then I would ask to table it, and then we'd go back to our attorney to see if we even have the authority to do that. And if you're just looking to maybe tighten up regulations with additional signage, things like that, then I think you have that authority to do that as part of the conditional use grant.
Well, you can also put a condition to come back and assess the conditions in X number of months, which would allow you to approve a parking lot, but put the wedge in to review conditions and gather that data. And I think if you've got the conditional use grant in place and you discover new information that warrants new conditions to be imposed, you can do so when you get that data. I'm not sure we have to totally pause. I think the parking lot there's probably no perfect solution, but it's better than what we've got. There's no parking on the street in the city of Mequon anyway. Technically, everyone should be getting a ticket or getting towed.
Yeah. and-
Well, yeah, or if they're parking in the ditch, we shouldn't be doing that either. I guess if we're going to have a parking lot, I want signage up to say that, remind people you can't park here. Once the parking lot's full, you're done. The preserve is full.
And
It
we
probably
looked
only
at-
gets heavily used when there's hunting,
Yeah,
to
we
that
looked
extent.
at capacity issues, and there's really the thing in our code that dictates the amount. We looked at other parks and preserves that the city owns. We allow gravel parking lot in those preserves. We don't really have truthfully, they just don't get used very often. But here at least they have the land. If we have a conditional use grant, we approve it based on the layout, about 10 spaces. If we find out there's still violations going on with people parking on the street, we can require them to add more spaces to that until we get to an equilibrium. We just didn't want them to overbuild it as well, so.
Commissioner Strelchak.
Oh, I think you had me wait because you know I was getting hot.
No.
Yeah, make sure I speak clearly. So
You live the closest of any of us, I
I
think.
do. I live right by, and I drive by there multiple times a day. I've seen the parking there. I've seen people hunt, coming and going, and I'm just going to tell everyone in the room, I'm a hunter as well, so that doesn't mean I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. It means I know what it means to do so safely. To hit people's houses with birdshot is, I can't swear up here, but it's baloney, right? It's infuriating to me as an alderman when we first allowed OWLT to, kind of move forward with the land in the current situation. They agreed to be good stewards of the land. And I'm going to bring up one point that I don't think anyone's brought up here. Being a good steward of the land is making sure that the hunting and the hunters are well vetted to the best of your ability. I know you can't be discriminatory as a land trust, and I know the police can't be as well. But if there are issues with, houses getting hit with bird shot, safety issues and concerns where people are, arguing and coming to people's property, which I wasn't aware of. Quite frankly, it makes me livid that people are on that land doing that. That's simply nothing short of inexcusable. As any condition, it's so frustrating. I think as a city, we need to look at, when we make legislation, I'll just share, here with everyone in the room, because I know some of you want to, have us just say no hunting. When we make legislation in the city, we can't be discriminatory to any property. So this property had and allowed hunting before people could hunt on it. I think the nuns allowed people to hunt on it previously. Or it had the capability based on the zoning where people could hunt on it, whether the people let somebody hunt on it or not. A parcel of that size is allowable to be hunted on within the city of Mequon. We can't legislate and be discriminatory against one property, especially one property that wants to be open to the public. But we can put limitations on safety, and we can put conditions, in this conditional use grant for the nature preserve and the parking lot is a perfect opportunity to discuss some of the ongoing issues that we have here. What I'd like to do is I'd like to do a full review of the safety concerns as it relates to the property. I think the signage that I asked and worked diligently to have put up on the west side of the property should be on the north side, as well as around the house that's in the middle, right? I think that the parking lot, as it relates to the 8 spots, is a proper place to park, and that's something that I think the community and neighborhood has needed all along, because people are parking on the street, or they're parking in the ditch, and there's mud, and they're not looking when they come in and they go. So the parking lot should have the same hours as the park. So I want to make sure, Jack, you weren't really clear on that statement. There wasn't gated, people were allowed to come and go, but the parking lot would have the same hours as the park, so they couldn't be in the parking lot after dark.
Technically, no, but I mean, again, it's a matter of enforcement, if the police are gonna go out there and enforce it or not.
Well, if there's somebody there and it's against the rules, we'll send the police out. I'll call, my neighbors will call, and the people across the street will call. What they wanted to prevent by not putting a parking lot in the first place was, just a great spot for kids to park and go back and drink at night, so that we have another enforcement issue we're dealing with the police. I'm gonna say if people aren't hunting safely back there and they're aiming their weapons and they're shooting them, because that 100-yard limitation is, in my opinion, too close. Although it's allowable by DNR, it's too close to residences. And a good hunter and a safe hunter is going to only aim their weapon away at an angle where any of their shots going to land within the property. That if there's complaints received, we find out who they are and we remove their permit and ability to hunt there. And if this happens to too many different people and this becomes a problem, we review it with OWLT and we don't allow them to allow hunting there, and that's their problem. Because it's inexcusable, any other property within the city of Mequon, and we're not being discriminatory here, that if we had somebody shooting weapons and hitting houses and the houses getting pelted with bird shot, that we would have some level of enforcement that we would go in and say. And it's not a battle with DNR, it's an equal and equitable enforcement from the safety of weapons discharge. When we're talking about rifles, I do want to clarify, you see a long rifle that's a shotgun, that's technically a rifle, but it's not a single projectile, unless there's a slug in it for deer hunting season. Single projectiles are not allowed on the property. If you see people out deer hunting, call the DNR and call the city of Mequon police, because that's simply not allowed to be able to be deer hunting with a rifle with a slug in it on that property and in that area within Mequon. Correct, Jack?
Yes, that's according to the police department, correct. I think there's some overlap here. I think some of this we can handle, but I think there should be some recommendation maybe to the Public Safety Committee to look at this as well, if there's a concern about, Cause we do a weapons discharge map for the city, and it dictates where you can hunt based on what types of, gun projectile you could use, and it's all based on proximity to residential properties. So if there's a potential concern by the commission, maybe that's a recommendation for the public safety, committee to look at that further. So that's one option as well.
I'm all for that. I don't think that the way that it's working currently, the residents' concerns with this being allowable and open to the public for hunting, from a safety standpoint, I don't feel those safety concerns are being met. So public safety, discussion point in, at council, you know, where we discuss really what happens, and we have the city attorney review and share with us, you know, what our opportunities are here. You know, I like the fact that we have public places where we can hunt within the city of Mequon. I like the fact that this property is open to the public, but if the public can't be safe users of the property, and they're, you know, and multiple residents come forward in a meeting sharing that their houses are getting pelted with BBs from birdshot, something has to be done.
Thank you. Commissioner Urbani.
I think I heard that it requires a special permit to to hunt on this property?
Yes.
You have
So-
to register with the PD and get a weapons discharge permit for that part of the city.
And OWLT, to my knowledge.
I think they have to ask for permission, but
So I think
Yeah.
one thing to consider is limiting the number of special permits you hand out severely, if necessary. Well, I mean, if you,
I'm guessing that most of the people causing the problems aren't going through the formality of getting it, would be my guess. But I'm just guessing. Most people that go through all the steps to do things correctly aren't so careless. I won't say doesn't happen, but it's probably people just think, oh, open field, I can just grab a shotgun and go out there, is my guess.
I'm looking at the OWLT document that's in here with the closed open access and managed access sites. And I should have done this earlier, but I did a quick Google search. I think that, is this the only site of its nature, OWLT open access site of its nature, that is in, maybe this is a question for the gentleman. This is the only open access site that's in Mequon city limits. I think the rest I Googled were like Farmington and Hartford and West Bend and more predominantly rural communities. People are not hunting in Donges Bay Gorge, are they?
No,
They can't, though.
they're
Okay.
too close proximity.
That's a,
Yeah.
okay. So what I'm saying, that's the only one in this category, which makes it unique. And I think where I'm going with is I do think that there has to be some further,
Circle on is the prospect of a trash can. Someone mentioned it, but I think the premise of OWLT land is leave no trace. So if you bring it in, you bring it out. If you leave a trash can there, it's going to invite trash.
they said they check once a week.
Yeah.
I've gone to Donges Bay Gorge regularly. There's not a garbage problem there. It's very nicely done. It's a different type of use, possibly. This is further away from a lot of neighbors. I think what you said earlier about coming back and double checking, so putting in a date that we're going to double check about complaints is helpful.
We could certainly put a condition to review performance in 12 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever the case may be. I'm guessing it's not going to get used a whole lot in the winter. They're probably not even going to put it in until the spring. Although I don't know that for sure. Gravel parking lot would be pretty easy to put in any time of year.
Probably better now and you than do it in spring. So, I mean, I would give a date from the approval of the conditional use grant to review. So 6 months or 12 months typically is what we do. No, I would do it from the date of approval, which is tonight. So I would pick either 6 months or 12 months from the date of, because we don't know, we don't technically issue permits for those either, so we don't actually know when they go anyway. So I would do it from the date of approval.
Hold on, I'm writing stuff down. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Commissioner Chorin.
There was one comment made about the thought that having the parking lot closer to Bonnewell was better from a supervision standpoint. Is that, what are your thoughts on that,
From
Jack?
a what? I didn't hear the last part. From what point, vantage point?
That-
Super, use-
One of the comments was to move, to have the parking lot closer to Bonnewell than what we're suggesting. From a supervision standpoint, is there,
close as they can go to code. I wouldn't push it any closer than that. I think you're still relatively close to the road to see that. I don't think there's a big issue.
I think
It
the
does
point is
appear,
with,
it does appear to be staked out in the field on Sunday, I noticed. It
No, I don't know if
appeared
that staking was on their previous request or based on my condition of adding 25 feet to that, so that I'm not sure of.
yeah, whether it's there or 25 feet back, you can drive by and see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, without, you don't have to get off the road and go in to go view the parking lot. Anyone else? Commissioner Strelchak.
So I'm inclined to table this, although I have zero problem with the parking lot. You know, that's the problem I got. I want to address the safety concerns, and I want some formal OWLT representation here to discuss that, and to know that they're on watch for safety issues within the community. I mean, it's not right. I'm hesitant to approve anything tonight without going through the safety issues.
Well,
I don't know if that's gonna.
I'm not sure that any amount of talking is going to supplant getting data from the police department, which I'm very interested in seeing. Excuse me. Excuse me. Here's what I have for a list of proposed conditions, which may or may not scratch your itch. The first one was a review by the Public Safety Committee within 6 months, maybe 4 months, whatever the case may be, of the existing safety concerns, including police reports. Whatever they come up with might spur new conversation on future conditions, since this is a conditional use grant for the being a nature preserve. But that would be subject to their review and investigation, which we're just simply not completely prepared to discuss tonight. The next one I wrote down from the conversation was signs for users entering the park at the parking lot to describe the hunting and the other passive uses there, and then also reminding hunters of their obligations when they're on the land, right there as they enter the park or the nature preserve in the parking lot. I had also had no parking signs along the road, because if we're going to have a parking lot, there's going to be no more parking in the ditch. That's going to go away. I had another one from you, Alderman Strelchak, for adding more no discharge signs on the northern end of the property, like there is on the eastern side. And then the last one was reviewing conditions related to the parking lot and potential trash issues at 12 months from the date of approval after a year of use. So that would it would end up coming back before Planning Commission. We'd review the data and conditions over the year of use. And we've done that with a couple other items, although it's not something we frequently do. But it puts a stake in there to revisit it and impose new conditions if it gets out of control.
And what it does do, in opposing tabling it, would be that they're allowed to hunt there now. So by tabling it, we're not really gaining anything, because we can't prohibit them from hunting now. But now if we put this in place, then we can start this action going forward and try to at least clean it up as best we can.
By March would be great for the first meeting. That's Q1. That's 3.5 months.
3 months, or if you went 4 months, you'd have your new Public Safety Committee when all the committees change in April.
That's my concern.
Oh, we can do it in March then? Okay. 3 months for Public Safety Committee, so.
February we can do it, because I'm pushing.
No later than 3 months. We can always do stuff sooner, and public safety is generally pretty light, especially right out of the gate in the new year. Commissioner Barnes.
Can I propose a motion to approve the parking area with the conditions that our mayor has just given to us here as part of that?
And staff conditions.
Yes.
Second.
I wrote it all down.
Yes, those ones that.
So the stuff we just said, plus what's in the staff report. Motion and a second. Okay, perfect. Any other discussion?
Yeah, just a brief statement that what we are reviewing is the safety concerns. We are reviewing whether or not revocation of certain parties' permits, and how that can be handled. And, it's really, the meeting is predicated based on, the safety concerns that have been brought forward up to tonight and including tonight. So I just wanted to state that on record after the motion was in place.
That may be a reasonable outcome of that. Well, I doubt they'll get it in one meeting, but
That is context, like I said, of proceeding with allowing the parking area to be.
I think in general it'll do more good than harm. Okay, so I've got those conditions that we just talked about written down, and then we have a motion and second for approval with the staff conditions and those additional conditions. Any further comments or questions? Commissioner?
I would just make it abundantly clear that in the signage that it is posted that it is permitted hunting only, to try and prevent people that are just showing up.
Correct, yeah. Remind them of all the rules and their obligations to set foot on there with a firearm, yes. I agree. Hearing and seeing no other input, please call the roll.
Commissioner Urbani. Commissioner Barnes.
Aye.
Commissioner Chorin.
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer. Commissioner Stoker. Alderman Strelchuk.
Aye.
Mayor Nurbin.
Aye.
Vote passes.
Look forward to the conversation about the safety items brought to our attention tonight. Those are some conditions that just aren't acceptable, and we'll find a way to make it better. I'm not sure we can eliminate everything, but I enjoy the opportunity to make it significantly better. All right, that's our last public hearing item, I believe. We have two regular items before us. The first is for Christian Life Church. The applicant is seeking a building and site plan amendment approval to allow for renovation of an approximately 17,512-foot addition to the existing church building, including a new canopy and drop-off drive for the property located at 2909 West Mequon Road.
Now, I don't know if Ms. Wilkie wanted to speak on this item or the next one, because the next one is also the same ownership. So I guess we might want to get a clarification from her whether she wants to speak on this or the rezoning request.
Well, yeah, I guess it said agenda item 4. Beverly Welke wishes to speak. Was it on the addition or was it on the rezoning recommendation? The rezoning, the next one? Okay. Yes, sir. Yeah, if you'd like to speak on this item, please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record.
My name's Louis Chamoy, 11,000 Sabra Court, which is the driveway and behind this new construction. And my only concern is access to my home and interference with my daily life. And I wanted to make sure there's assurances in the approval that my driveway is not used as a construction driveway, and I have continuous access to my home while this construction goes on.
Okay, we can certainly discuss that when we're taking up the matter here in a second. Is that your primary concern?
Yes, I live right south of this building, and you can see my driveway on the west side of their property.
Okay. Thank you. We'll talk about that in a second. Is anyone else who wishes to speak on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll get back to staff.
Yeah, so this is a request. There's one of two-part request for this evening. The first one deals with the building and site plan amendment. This is for a 17,512 square foot addition. to the church for new worship space and a new entranceway canopy. I have the site plan on the screen in front of you. So the addition is shown to be in the back of the building. And then there's a little bit, a minor change to the front of the building where the entrance canopy will be. This also result in a loss of a couple of parking spots in front and new islands in the parking lot. I did pull up the GIS just to give you kind of an idea where the gentleman who spoke lives. It's kind of an interesting, there's a side road that comes in through here and it actually feeds back to his property, which is behind the church. So there's a private driveway there. I assume there's a shared access easement that dictates some of the concerns that he brought up, but if the commission feels that it's necessary to add some conditions with regard to construction traffic, that would be appropriate, I think, at this time. The only issue staff had with the request is the issue of the building. The addition is shown with precast panels to match the existing split face and concrete block building that's painted. I will pull up the renderings to show you. There's one concern over just the use of the precast without any windows on the elevation. It's kind of hard to see up here, but on the kind of north or southwest elevation of the building, there's really no windows on this very large wall. They do show some transom windows that's located on the other side, which are really not visible from anywhere. So staff is recommending that there's additional windows placed on this north elevation of the building. The applicant, basically, I think we submitted a separate email showing the public view of that space from Mequon Road, which I did reiterate, we're still looking for foresight architecture as much as possible. So we still, our recommendation still stands. Other than that, the lighting, there's some issues with the wall packs. I don't think they're shown to be full cutoffs, or just a minor change for that. Landscaping looked fine. The other changes to the site were acceptable with, and we do recommend approval. I will pull up, Robin, is that on here? I will pull up the rendering to show what they submitted. Is this it here? It's not. There we go. So it's kind of, again, hard to see, but this is a view from Mequon Road that shows the addition in the back. And it is difficult to see from the road. We acknowledge that in our early discussions with the applicant, but again, in terms of foresight architecture, we still stand with our recommendation of adding the windows to the back. So with that, for this one, we do recommend approval according to the conditions in the report.
Thank you. Is there anyone here representing the project this evening? If so, please, come sit up in the alternate spot here. While they're getting situated, any questions or comments for staff? I guess with regard to the access, is that road to the west, is that public street?
No, it's a private shared driveway. It has a name to it, though. It's Sabrick Court, but from what I could research on that, it was a private drive. I'm not sure exactly how that was ever put in, but it looks like it's a private drive serving that property.
So is there a separate agreement for that?
I assume so. That's long before my time here, but I assume there's a private access agreement there in place.
I think we looked at that when they proposed their CSM last year, maybe.
Okay.
But there was one there, yes.
We don't have any idea what the
documentation
says. I'm not even sure we can impose anything on it if it's a private agreement.
Well, I think we can. If we could dictate some. I think there's some reasonable request of having him have access to his property 24 hours without.
I think it should remain unimpeded. Yeah, there might be a truck there, but it should be passable.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't think we can really say much either. But I think that's a reasonable request to say that it has to be allowed. He has to have access to his property.
Okay. Someone will slip that in as another condition when we make the motion. Commissioner Abani.
So I think I read it in here somewhere, I can't find it, about the setbacks. It follows all the setback requirements? It looks like on the one drawing that the building was right up to the setback, but the road, their access road to the back was over the setback?
Yes, well, there's a separate setback for a driveway.
Okay.
So that's 3 feet versus the building setbacks, two different requirements. 3 feet for a driveway.
Okay.
So they do, and they're matching what's existing out there, so there's really no issue with the setbacks of the property. I'll bring up the.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? Commissioner Barnes?
Just, I'm presuming that the community in the area has been informed of this. I'm, in particular, just seeing the residents on the, what would that be, the west side of Sable Court. There's a swimming pool and so forth. And I'm not sure that there are any issues, but just want to make sure that we don't get something later.
We've notified everybody within a quarter mile.
Yeah.
That's standard for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything that comes here is
Yep.
quarter mile. Yeah.
Okay, just so it and then just a last side thing, wonderment I had is, it looks like there's wetland to the north of where the addition is going. And I'm presuming they're not getting anywhere close to it with the grading and so forth. It looked like in your reports like everything was fine, but
I think there was some to the south. You're talking
to the south.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They were staying out of that area with the building. I think they're repaving part of their kind of driveway that wraps around the back there, but that was really the only portion of their work that was going to be near it. Yeah.
It just appears to be a very tight area, and that's why I was wondering against the plans.
Yep. And they do show it on their plans. Yep.
Commissioner Chorn?
I'm interested in hearing what the applicant says about the transom windows. If you look at the floor plan, it appears as though the center of the auditorium, or the focal point of the auditorium, would be that wall, and you typically don't want, particularly facing southwest, to have windows there, and it's blinding. It's not often that you have them on that surface, given the use of the space. So I'll wait to hear from them.
Yeah, we did.
And that's where I was going to go next, until you raised your hand.
We did have that discussion, but they do have on the other side, which would be more impactful from a morning ceremony or service than they would, and they don't have a lot of late afternoon ones. But I'll let them address that one.
Well, we're in agreement on that. So does the applicant have anything to add to the discussion?
Yeah, it's good insight. Right now, the current sanctuary faces to the east, and there actually are windows behind the altar platform, and that is a problem that they're trying to solve. So they wanted some controllable light in the back of the worship space with this new addition, and so that's why we are resistant to putting them on the southwest, because they'd never be actually utilized.
You just keep them covered up because you don't want the sunlight coming through.
The light control with the way they worship, it causes major interference.
All right. Any questions regarding that? I can certainly understand that desire, because the use of the space is unique. It's maybe not one we see a lot of, or you would have that that condition to work around. Any other feedback from the commission on that item? I mean, it does look a little imbalanced, but when I think the windows, that may end up being problematic for using the space the way they want to use it. If you have a different question, Commissioner Schaefer, go ahead.
I just wanted, so looking at the data that was provided, it looks like 840 as a capacity seems like a great lofty goal, and the average attendance has been right around 200, so clearly plans to grow. And 210 is deemed sufficient if they do indeed meet this 840 capacity. I don't, seems it's a large addition, right? It's quite a significant increase from what it sounds like the data's showing you with your current attendance. And I'm wondering if the parking is sufficient. Should it?
This is one of our areas where our code may be a little out of date with regard to undercounting, is we require 1 per 4 spaces. So that's
A lot of families better carpool to church.
Yeah, exactly. But you'll see under the second application where they have a proposal for a potential expansion area.
Yeah.
I think, again, like, most of these services, they'll probably be fine most of the year. It's just a couple of big holiday events.
It's the creasters, right? That's when it always gets busy. And then just, I missed a little bit of what you said, Cole, but as far as the driveway and the gentleman's concern, whatever we can do, I think, to mitigate that, you said it's perhaps under a private agreement between, sounds like maybe a prior owner and maybe a prior owner of this property. So we'd have to look that up and see
Yeah,
what
and-
it says.
And really the only alternative that probably you guys would have to consider would be adding an alternate access for construction entirely onto Mequon Road, which would be rather challenging for them to do. But if you guys want to put a condition on that he has unabridged access to the
Yeah, I
to
think
the
that's a
driveway,
guarantee
that's fine too.
for me.
Yeah, I think we'll just put a condition that it needs
no
to be,
damage.
there needs to be access.
And no damage.
Well,
to
they
this
would have to
driveway.
restore any damaged
Yes.
surfaces, but maintain access. There might be a truck, but it can't completely block the road. Things like that. Commissioner Strelchak.
Yeah, I guess my only question was, what was the height of the building that you're proposing? I didn't see that in here. I didn't see a vertical.
40 feet, I believe, is the maximum height, and that's to the top of the cross and the entrance canopy, so the building would have to be less than that.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I believe our precast walls are 28 feet.
28 too.
Yeah.
And a 20-foot building setback, but is that based on residential?
It's based on the institutional code.
IPS, yeah.
Okay, I guess just that was my only real big question. I mean, I support an addition here. I support the additional parking if needed. I just was concerned with a really tall building right 20 feet from the property line and having that height right there with potential residents behind.
Yeah, the benefit of that is, that if you look at the GIS map, most of the land to the west is the golf course, and there's a vacant lot to the southeast. So there's really just the one property that's really impacted by it, which is a resident that spoke to previously. So not a lot of residents in nearby proximity to the addition.
And that's wooded as well, right? If I remember correctly.
What's that?
That land is wooded as well, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Is there someone who would like to make a motion?
I was going to make a motion to approve per staff's recommendation, also adding the condition that the driveway will remain unimpeded during construction, so the resident has access at all times.
Second.
So,
An amendment.
do you have an amendment, Mr. Shorn?
The elimination of the staff's requirement for the transom windows on the southwest face of the building.
Because of the unique use and lighting control for the way the stage and altar is positioned. And only because of that. So in case someone tries to do it for a different
Correct.
reason, we define why we
I'll second
give the
that.
exception.
I will accept that.
So will I.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we had that on record, so there's a specific reason why we deviated. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That item carries, which brings us to the companion item. Let me get back to the top of my agenda here. Christian Life Church, the applicant is seeking a rezoning recommendation from R3 to IPS zoning with a PUD, Planned Urban Development overlay approval to allow for an addition to the existing church to include future parking and garage for the property located at 2803 West Mequon Road.
Yes, I have the map of the zoning on the screen in front of you. As some of you may recall, we approved the CSM not too long ago to combine these into one. Previously, they were separate, and I don't know if Benny, were any of you here at the time, but back in, I think about 8 years ago, we had a proposal for this piece alone for a memory care facility, which requested a rezoning IPS at that time, which was denied by the commission. So in this case, we're supportive of the rezoning, but we did, just as a protection to the neighbor that's to the east, we added a condition that this would have to be used as a church only, to incorporate a PUD over the site, so they could only use it for a church facility, so that we wouldn't have this issue of any other IPS uses that would be allowed. They did provide us a plan of what they would like to do with that area for now, which shows an extension of the parking lot, maybe to address some of the concerns of the parking demand. And then they want to replace the storage facility building that was located where the addition's going. So for that, we are supportive of the rezoning to the IPS with the PUD overlay that allows just for religious institutions and accessory uses as part of the PUD. So with that, we do recommend approval.
All right, before we get too far, we did have one resident wish to speak on this item who's been patiently waiting. Beverly Welke, 2737 West Mequon Road.
First of all, I want to say Christian Life has been an excellent neighbor. And the only reason I'm here is because I went through this with Lumen Christi and it wasn't a good experience. So I'm trying to find out if you indeed give it this approval for a parking lot. Is this approval just going to be for the parking lot area submitted? Or can they pull the parking lot all the way right up to the lot line and I'm gonna be looking out my bedroom window at cars parked? Or can they then come back 4 years from now and say, ooh, I wanna split this property again, and now it's got some type of thing where I end up looking out at a gas station? And also, what type of lighting is going to be on this structure or this parking lot? Those things I can ask.
Okay, well, we'll get to that in a second, but when the public speaks, we don't usually get conversive, but we'll address that when we go back and go to the staff comment on that. You won't get a gas station. It would violate zoning. So you'll never get a gas station. Do you have any other concerns? Otherwise, we'll bring it back to staff and we can talk about some of those.
No, as far as what's shown here that I'm looking at, which is what you have up there, my husband and I have no issues with that. It's the lighting. Where is it gonna be? The existing signage that's on Mequon Road, when it's lit, shines right into my bedroom. But, okay, it's not a big deal. But if you put parking lot lights up, which I would think you would have to, it is gonna be a big deal. It's a big deal because I live right there, and I have to live with Lumen Christi's cemetery parking, and again last night, I had 2 cars in that cemetery parking lot for 2 hours after dark. And when I mention it to Lumen Christi, I get, well, what's your problem? Well, excuse me, but who goes to visit a grave at night? And I don't want to have to deal with the same thing. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess I could answer several of the questions. The issue she's speaking with was, and some of you may recall, that St. James Cemetery purchased the house next door, tore it down, and expanded their cemetery operations on that site. There is a requirement, though, that they're not allowed to have people park there unless they're there for an actual ceremony. So we could follow up with Lumen Christi to let them know that they're violating their conditional use agreement by having people park there at random times. They're still supposed to use the access point off of Range Line to have people park that are visiting their loved ones. So we can address that issue. In terms of the requirements for the parking lot, it's shown as future parking. So yeah, that could change. There's nothing that says they have to comply with that. There are setback requirements. And in our lighting code, that would require, for the parking lot lighting, would require full cutoff fixtures that would not have any light trespass onto the surrounding properties. So there'll be protections in place. They'll have to come back for a parking lot this size. They would also have to come back in front of the planning commission for approval at a future date anyway. So we will see this again, but they're allowed to expand further if they wanted to. My guess is at first they probably won't, because that's a pretty big addition to their parking area. So there is significant landscaping and buffering there, but again, as a condition of the parking lot, we can add landscaping along the property line. We can add, buffering and things like that at the time, but it's a little premature right now for that. This just gives them the right to do that at a future date.
Okay, so the parking lot's not going to get built anytime soon is what we're hearing. I think rezoning it with the PUD is actually a good thing, because it allows us to impose other conditions that aren't normally in the code for unique scenarios like that. So I don't know if you've heard or digested everything that Jack just said, but if the parking lot ever gets put in, they'll have to come back to get that approved, and then we can, at that time, with final plans, address some of those conditions that might arise. But now it's more about getting it zoned so they can do it in the future, and when they do it, there'll be another separate action to cover it. But we certainly appreciate your feedback, as we'd like to, we like to all be good neighbors. We like to limit the impact from property to property. So having the PUD actually strengthens our ability to do that a little bit. Commissioner Schaefer.
Is there, what scenarios what could they do without coming back? If it gets rezoned, they could do something. I think that's kind of your question, right? Is a little, if it's a bait and switch, like, we think we're going to do this.
Future building they're showing on the screen here for like some of their storage, that we would, on a minor request like that, we typically talk to the chair, who's the mayor, at staff level, and see if that's small enough we can approve at staff level. So something like that, they maybe come back. Now, anything beyond that, typically our policy is 10 stalls or less. We would approve at staff level, but anything above that, we would bring it to the planning commission. So there's very little, especially knowing the sensitivity of the neighbor, we would more than likely push anything anywhere that's in her direction to planning commission.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Strelchak.
With a motion and a second, can we just put a condition that, any future expansion, we'd address the neighbors' concerns with some level of screening, just to get it on record that it's expected based on the rezoning?
Sure, you can put it on record, that's fine.
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Want to make the motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve with the condition that the landscaping concerns of the neighbor from screening from light. Light, is that the major concern that you have, correct? We're just trying to cover our bases, and it's not unreasonable to add right now, just so everyone's aware of what we're looking at moving forward. Yeah, screening for light, just to address some of the concerns of the residential property directly next door.
Motion and a second. Any further input, discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That item 2 passes. Congratulations and good luck with your project. Announcements. Our only announcement is, well, we have 2. One is announcing the meeting calendar for 2025. So if you're on the Planning Commission, and all of you are, these are the 10 dates we will be meeting next year. So just tuck those away and try not to schedule too many trips to Mexico over the top of them. That's right, yeah, clearly. And then our next meeting is also on here. That's our second announcement, so it's a little redundant, but January 17th. Well, I think it is going to be in the year 2025, not 1015, contrary to what the agenda says. If staff can figure out the time machine, let me know. We're going to go make some fantastic sports bets and some lottery number picks. But that is it for announcements.
We have one more, though. One more announcement. We have a new hire. Did you want
we do have a new hire.
Yes, you do.
Okay, would you like to make the announcement formally?
Natalie Redding has joined us as our new planner. position. You'll be seeing her face at
Fantastic. We'll have a fresh new face handling this rowdy bunch of planning commissioners.
We've all got
Welcome.
questions.
We've met once, but now it's twice. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.